All right, we're live. Wendell, I'm completely out of practice. I've been driving for years. So I feel kind of beat up too. You know, like got like two black eyes from lack of sleep, and it's been
You
rough.
managed to beat your stuff there too.
Yeah, no, our stuff is. I think our stuff is now in Wyoming. No, not in Wyoming anymore. It's in Utah. It was supposed to go from Wyoming straight to the Seattle area. And then they called me and they were like, "Hey, listen, we took another job in Utah, so it's going to add an extra day. And by the way, by extra day, we mean we don't deliver on the weekends, so it's not going to be there on Saturday. It'll be there on Monday." So it was supposed to be here between Thursday and Friday, all of our stuff. And now you see this weird table we're using here. I got a cheap table. I've already ripped it, and Pistol and I have both been using this table. I've got my, 27-inch 1440p monitor, and then the only other monitor that we had was the 40-inch Philips 4K monitor. So that thing has been on here, along with two sets of mice and keyboards and accessories, have all been crammed onto this little table. And then our desktops are in the floor, along with the NAS, which is on top of my computer. And that's like our little setup here. So she's going to start editing some videos on that over the weekend, and all our stuff will be in soon. But we'll be back in business pretty soon. And this will do in the meantime, especially for the tech. So yeah.
I've been posting a lot of super crap videos in the meantime.
I wouldn't call them super crap. I quite enjoyed the PenguinCon video. And if you guys have not watched the PenguinCon video, go watch it. You're going to wish that you had gone to PenguinCon. It's nerdy beyond a lot of the normal events like PAX and all that sort of thing. I think it's more of something that our audience would really enjoy. So it's a quick 5-minute video that Wendell put together, and it covers most of the fun. And slightly a little bit of the insanity and some ESR quotes that are quite a bit of fun. So you go check that out. I guess other things.
Definitely. Sorry.
No, go ahead. That was a weird noise. My NAS just made this noise like, ugh. It's time to build a new NAS, and my NAS is over here just.
There goes the hard drive.
It's been making weird noises for a little while, and it's now that it's sitting on top of my computer instead of in the closet, I'm hearing it make all these noises that it's like, oh God, why am I still alive? Oh, there it was again. That sounds awful. I should put the mic on that. That's like scary. Anyway, I've got all the parts for a new NAS. It'll be time to build it.
You are using those Samsung drives that expire
No.
suddenly and unexpectedly.
No, I'm not using Samsung drives. I'm using the Seagate drives. The ones.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, the Seagate drives that are just. They've got pretty rough. I can't believe it's still working. But we're switching over to the HGST drives. Yeah, I can't wait for the HGST drives
soon.
Yeah. It's really time to build that. I guess it's good to wait because you always get a newer version of FreeNAS that when you wait a little while. Anyway, video on the Dell is out, Fantex, and you just uploaded a video. That's the Intho Primo, the huge case, and you just uploaded a video on a different 4K monitor. Go ahead and show everybody that one because they need to go watch it.
So you've got the A399U, yes, and we think it's the same panel as the Philips, but it's a little bit cheaper. So we're gonna have a review of the Philips as well, but this is a steal. Like it's on sale on eBay. It's from Dreamseller, where we get all of our 27-inch monitors. It's a pretty solid monitor. There's some weird shadowing around the edges, but I got used to that pretty quick. But you watch the full review. It's a really, I was sort of blown away. And actually, if you compare that to the Samsung U28D 590D, that 4K TN monitor, this monitor absolutely destroys that monitor. There is no reason anybody should buy a U28D 590D. There's no reason.
And
it's crazy.
This is a VA panel, correct? Right? It's a HVA.
It's MVA.
MVA.
I looked up the panel on Panel Look, and it's some kind of MVA, like super MVA, but it's got super deep blacks. So it's the picture quality of IPS. It's older IPS. It's not like new IPS because it's got a little bit of the glowy thing to it. But the blacks are super deep. You don't really have that glow, that the sort of that weirdness that from the high quality panel. The blacks are super black if you want them to be.
That's the way I like them. I mean, the IPS panels do have slightly better color, of course, but I don't know, for gaming, I really actually do like the extreme black. And 40 inches for me is really about where it should be for 4K. I guess you can get away with a 30-something inch, 36 inch, 32 inch, but I like 40, and you got to put it back. Like on this desk is about 2 feet across, so Pistol's been using it and she's playing video games, and she has to dart her head around the screen to see everything because it's so close. She can't even see everything, and her periphery is like, I'm over here. So I'm like, what are you doing over there, Stevie Wonder? Was that insensitive?
You know, I got used to mine being about 18 to 24 inches away, and I sort of positioned it so that my eyes were basically in the middle of the screen. Like I was looking into the middle of the screen, but I sort of was taking in the peripheral vision, and that was I played GTA 5 for a couple hours that way.
As a monkey, right?
I really got into it. It was really immersive. No, I was single player. I don't. I
you
don't like people. So.
No, I mean, but you were a monkey though. You used the monkey mod, correct? You have to use the monkey mod.
Yeah, the mod that turns bullets into cars is probably my favorite.
Speaking of cars, Tesla, they're going to be bringing out a $35,000 car called the Model 3. I wonder if they're going to be competing with the 3 Series. Well, of course they're going to be competing with the BMW 3 Series and other, $35,000 luxury cars. Now, of course, this is going to come with some. I mean, they're going to have to cut some corners here. So you can only drive 200 miles on a single charge. So it's not going to have the superior range of the Model S, but it's cheap. 200 miles that's a deal breaker for me. 200 miles because I like to. Now that I'm up in this part of the world, I'm going to be driving to Boise, Idaho, and checking out the Sawtooth Mountains. I'm going to drive over to Montana, go to Missoula, have some beers with some guys, climb some mountains. I'm going to drive into the Cascades, and I do not want to get stuck 200 miles away or in the middle of nowhere, on a limited 200-mile range car. So I don't know if that's going to be the car for me, but for anybody who just needs a car to get around town and wants a really nice car or a car for short drives, it might be a really, really good competitor to the the BMW 3 Series and other similar cars. It's nice to see.
I really had a hard time getting past the name because it's the Model 3, and I keep thinking it's like, does it have a waffle iron? Where's the waffle iron? I need the waffle. Is it a death trap? Is it going to kill me? I don't understand. I think this is a waffle iron. It's not a car. It's a waffle iron.
Yeah. I wonder in Europe if it's going to be the Model E. That's what I want to know. Anyway, so I'd be curious to know what you guys think about the Tesla, Model 3, and also they got the Model X, which is that fancy. Well, they also have a van coming out. We'll get into all that as we get more information, but pretty interesting stuff. I was talking to Timmy Tech last night, and we went out and played some board games over at Mox. If I see you guys in there, what's up? And he said that he's got an SUV. And he likes the Tesla stuff, but he needs an SUV, and he's thinking about their van. But I was like, why don't you have a minivan right now? They typically have way better mileage than that SUV you have. And his response was like, yeah, but when you get a minivan, it's like you've just completely given up on life. And I was like, oh, that's sad. But they're so practical. But
and Tesla will change that. That's like saying that Apple stuff is, it's like no.
Well, the thing about the Tesla is that the doors, they open upward instead of sliding back. I forgot what the term for that is. I'm doing this maneuver here. I feel like I'm gonna. Yes. Everyone's looking at me like, what the hell are you doing? I'm swimming up. I don't know. All right, let's just move on. Denmark is thinking about eliminating cash. And that's an extreme headline there, another one of those extreme headlines. But Denmark is going to give businesses the option to say, no, we don't take cash at this location. Almost every store except for grocery stores, dentists, doctors, post offices, and hospitals and nursing homes. Those are going to still have to accept cash. But I guess the idea here is that they're going to be able to save on some costs from allowing people not to have to deal with cash, hiring security to protect the cash, having to hire someone to count all the cash. Everything will be done digitally, and they are saying that, like, listen, most of our citizens already have a card. I don't know. Well, I guess we could talk a little bit about a cashless society, and I'm not talking about a Star Trek utopian cashless society. I'm talking about a society that just uses plastic. And do you think that we're ready for a society like that? And maybe if they cut down on some of those fees from the the terminal fees and stuff, they're a bit ridiculous, but maybe 1% would be okay, not 3 and 4% or whatever, plus 25 cents if it's a small item. But
let me rephrase the question: are we ready for Visa, MasterCard, and American Express to control all currency and our entire economy? The answer is no. No, we're not. No.
So what would be the answer?
God, no.
Are we ready for maybe it's Bitcoin? Maybe that's the answer. But the thing
something
about Bitcoin,
like Bitcoin, maybe.
Well, the thing about Bitcoin is the learning curve And the people who have no idea, like there's 99.5% of the people out there are still just Bitcoin goes right over their head. That does not mean that there are not millions who understand what Bitcoin is, because there's a lot of people on the planet, but there's still billions who is just, they're not grasping it. We need an easier form of Bitcoin. They're like, what do you mean I have to do a big long number thing and put it into a box, and then I have to do what? And then I don't know, is it can I just deposit it into my bank? Oh, your bank doesn't like Bitcoin. Oh, Chase is going to kill me if I use Bitcoin. So it's like there's still a lot of hurdles for Bitcoin, but yeah, I think you're totally right that it's not a good idea to let the major credit card companies control our, our complete currency life. What's the word for that? Our money life? I don't know. It's a bad idea.
That would be bad.
Yeah.
The only other option is like a state-sponsored type Bitcoin, and that's perhaps a worse idea. You could maybe use the ledger features of Bitcoin for the crediting and debiting versus the intrinsic value derived from it. Although one of the things with Bitcoin is that you get value from actually doing the mining and sort of minding the ledger. So that would be a little more problematic if you were going to throw that out.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. We'll have to. I'm curious to know what the audience thinks about this. Trusting a government to be in control of that. You have to really trust your government, and there's a lot of corrupt governments out there. Most of them, in fact. So, let's just move on. All right, next up on the list. Have you seen the time window?
Uh-oh, is it Rant 30?
It's Rant 30. Let's talk about this nonsense that Facebook is pulling called Internet.org. Now, I was kind of on the fence about Internet.org. It's good to give people access. But Zuckerberg and the crew at Facebook have done something that is completely beyond me. They've decided that other websites can be a part of it, but they cannot use SSL. And the reason that they're giving is because SSL is it's computationally expensive. They're saying it's too much for a lot of phones. They want to make sure that anybody, regardless of their cheap, crappy phone, they want to make sure that they have access to stuff. And SSL may not work with some old phones. HTTPS is not going to work. So they're also saying no flash. They're saying, no large pictures above 1 megabyte and no videos for extra services that they're allowing, or extra websites that they're going to be allowing to use the internet.org. And then another thing that's pretty interesting about this is that they say, hey, listen, we're going to let some of you guys do this, but we want you to push people to use paid services and paid upgrades. So that's going to be part of the bargain, is if you want to be a part of this, no SSL, and you have to push people to paid service tiers where they get access to different things and maybe videos and all that sort of thing. So it all seems pretty shady. And, Zuckerberg keeps coming out and saying, listen, we're going to allow, SSL. We're going to allow HTTPS. It's going to be fine. Right now, we're just trying to figure it all out. But, number one, I guess there's some devices out there that don't really work with SSL, but why is that a thing? And then number two, you know what I think he's going to do? And you guys can argue about this, but come back in a month. I bet it's going to happen. He's going to say, listen, everything's going to connect to one of our Facebook servers, right? All the stuff's going to connect here, and then we will, output everything encrypted. But everything has to come in here unencrypted because they want to look at everything. Really, they're providing free internet, so what they're going to be harvesting is all the data. They need all that data. That's what they do. They're one of the biggest data harvesting companies in the world. And let's not forget, they are very willing to cooperate with different governments, including the one in China. So they just hand over stuff. Hey, you guys need stuff? Here you go. So I think all that is a recipe for Facebook having way too much control over your personal data. And that really bothers me. I don't know. What do you got?
The other thing is that Zuckerberg seemed to be saying that HTTPS was really more about the overhead, like the technical overhead, computational overhead. But, some of the other stuff that he said doesn't seem like that's completely the case. And so I get the feeling that maybe some of that was lip service. I'm really not sure what to make of it. But I think that HTTPS by itself is really not a lot of overhead at all. But I think that Zuckerberg would lose control over that. So like if some site decided they wanted to do images or videos or other things that were really heavy on this internet.org initiative, obviously it's not in their best interest to do that because he's fronting the cash for that connectivity, because these providers in these situations are, pay per byte presumably. because that's the whole reason they're here to begin with. So this is one of those things where we've really got to keep a close eye on it, because otherwise it could turn into a bad situation for those consumers really fast.
Yeah, and also let's remember one thing. This is one of the first one of the first commenters here on Tech Dirt. His name is Anonymous Coward. He says, let's not forget, no HTTPS means no online shopping, no private conversations. So yeah, no online shopping and stuff without HTTPS.
Or no political protests either.
The end of his no that's the important part. No political protests. Yeah, it doesn't sit well with me at all. All right, next up on the list, I just wanted to mention this Kickstarter that's on right now. It's OSTraining. They have a Kickstarter up for free Drupal 8 training videos. The videos, I guess they're decent videos. I'm not sure if they're on Linda's level of quality, but free is good, especially when it comes to...
Free is always good.
Yeah, especially when it comes to Drupal 8, because it's a pretty powerful engine. I think we might be upgrading to that one day, maybe. I don't know. We've already got the back end upgraded to Discourse, but I don't know. Maybe Drupal 8 for the front end. Maybe not. I don't know. Who knows?
For the main site, yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway, so if you guys are interested in that, check it out. There's 6 days to go. And as of earlier today, it was not fully funded, but now it is fully funded. So it looks like we're going to have some free Drupal 8 training videos. I may look at them just to stay sharp on a few different things. They say they don't use a lot of technical jargon, so I hope they use some technical jargon, because, or at least if they do, I hope they explain it, because you may need that technical jargon if you get a job. Otherwise, if you're just making a website,
I'll be honest. I was looking through the list, and it's like I kind of was hoping for like migration, like Drupal 8 specific features. This looks more like just a basic intro to Drupal proper. Right. And the kinds of things you're going to get out of the box with Drupal 8 that are really just the amalgamation of what was previously contributed modules and some other things. And so it's kind of like, it's good you're doing training videos, but let's see some good stuff here that's not just, the basic, oh, look, I installed a module and I created a view.
Well, that can really get people started. I mean, they're only asking for 10 grand. It's not like they're asking for an exorbitant amount of money. So... and these are a decent number of videos, but yeah, you're right. It doesn't really get too deep in there. But being able to create a view and understanding how the the taxonomy system works and all that in Drupal could be enough to get people going. And then once they understand it and it starts to click, so maybe that'll help in that way. I don't know.
It's like we're going to talk about the 5-star module, but we're not going to mention the voting API. How's that going to work?
Maybe they'll see what you just said and incorporate that. Maybe, hopefully, could be possible.
Like, oh yeah, we need another bullet point. It's like,
we'll log in tomorrow and be like, "There's a bunch more bullet points." I'm like, "Oh, you guys watch the tech. Thanks. I'll give you $10." That's the way it works. Hey, everyone that watches the tech, I send $10. We'll be out of business tomorrow. All right. Tom Wheeler is telling the cable industry to stop complaining like a bunch of babies and start competing. I added those bunch of babies thing in there, So the dingo is telling the ravenous pack of hyenas to stop being insane.
I would be getting real excited about this, but I was real excited about Candidate Obama and how Candidate Obama was like, we need transparency in government. And Candidate Obama was saying things like, sunlight's the best disinfectant, and we're going to shine a light on all these, black room, black hat backroom deals. It's going to be great. Surveillance, this overstepping surveillance. We're going to do all this stuff. It's going to be amazing. Just elect me as president. And then none of those things happened. And so super skeptical because of that. It's like, I don't know. I want to believe him, but I mean, come on, let's actually do things. I don't know.
I mean, I agree with what he's saying to them all here. And a lot of the ISPs are suing, and the different ISPs and different groups and that sort of thing. They're all suing the FCC right now over these rules, and all the Republicans are like, we're gonna as soon as we get in office, we're going to destroy all this stuff because it's going to ruin the country. Even though, if you look at the polls, 84% of the Republicans out there, just the regular people on the street, are totally for the FCC reform, the Title II reclassification. But the candidates are all like, no, it's awful. It's really weird. It makes no sense. Go ahead.
The part that even the Republicans always forget is that historically these companies were always Title II. They were never not Title II until the very last little bit. And then they started behaving completely sociopathically. And then it's like, oh, we probably should rein them in because they're behaving like total sociopaths. And then it's like, what? No, we've never been Title II. And it's like, oh, what?
What?
No, you were Title II until just a few years
90s,
ago.
Right? I mean, wasn't it the 90s? 90.
It was late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
And so it was fine then. And it's like, it's like, if you make us not, this was the deal. This was totally the deal. I'm not oversimplifying. If you make us not Title II, then we can use all the money that we have dealing with the bureaucracy to actually upgrade our infrastructure, and then we'll have the most amazing internet on the planet. Now, we all know that happened. Not. So
yeah, that's why
we find ourselves in this situation.
That's why I live near Seattle, and I only have one real choice as my provider, and that happens to be Comcast at this point in time. It's extremely sad. I'm also paying for twice what I'm actually getting, because it's the whole up to thing. And I found that the best way to solve my problem is not to pick up the phone. It's to publicly tweet at Comcast and at Comcast cares, because that seems to be the only place that they care is when you're on a public forum screaming, "Hey, this sucks," and then I immediately get a tweet saying like, "Oh, I'm here to fix it," and sure enough, they fix it, because it's out there in front of 50,000 people who are following me on Twitter, and all of a sudden they care. Why? I don't understand why they even care at that point, but I'll take it. My internet's working now. But it's sad that being in a place like this, that's the only choice I've got. I can get CenturyLink, but it's like 5 megabits per second, and they were trying to sign me up like they kept saying the word very fast, blazing fast, sir. I was like, how fast is it? Blazing fast. I was like, they're like, well, go ahead and get your credit card number. I was like, no, I need to know the speeds. Blazing fast. We already told you. Give us your credit card. That's exactly what the phone call was like.
It's
really
blazing fast in 1989.
Yeah, really. Like 1989, this would have been the place, man. He's got 5 megabit. Oh my God! Let's start a university right at his house.
Yeah.
No. Anyway, let's finish up here with Tom Wheeler. So anyway, he's basically telling them to overbuild, and that is a really cool thing for him to say. I mean, he's like, listen, guys, just stop, just overbuild each other's networks. But then we won't have situations like I'm in right now, where there's no choices. The prices are artificially high because they're going up at a rate that's way more than inflation. So, yeah, just let them overbuild. And guess what? You know what happens when people overbuild? Let's look at this other article here. Google Fiber, they're expanding into Charlotte. And so Time Warner customers all of a sudden overnight are getting about 6 times what they were getting before. People who are paying for the 15 are now getting 50 megabits per second. People who are paying for 30 are now going to get 200 megabits per second. And people who are paying for 50 are now going to get 300 megabits per second. No additional charges. Same price.
So wait, what you're telling me is that last mile infrastructure, this last mile infrastructure that these companies are always bitching is so expensive and they can't possibly do it overnight and blah, blah, blah. They just hit a button, and presumably this infrastructure's been there the whole time, and they just hit a button and now everything is magically faster? What? How how is this not evidence of horrible shenanigans going on? How is there not a congressional investigation? Why are these people not up on charges?
That's exactly what's happening. And I mean, to be fair, they may have had to install a new magic box of technology in their, I don't know, somewhere in their server stuff somewhere. They had to install a few more ports. But 1 month of bills can, from everyone coming in, can take care of all that upgrade. I mean, it's all that really had to happen there. Yeah, that's kind of silly, is it not?
Can you imagine if we had fiber optics everywhere? This would just be like, oh, I replaced some electronics. Would you like me to mail you some electronics at your end? You can go from gigabit to 10 gigabit or from gigabit to 40 gigabit. That would be amazing, but we don't have fiber, and we've still got copper that was, from the 70s. Come on.
Sad thing is copper can do a lot more than it is. Anyway, let's take a look at our store for just a moment. Our sponsor of the day is us. We've sponsored ourselves again. That's the way I like to do it. Anyway, the design of the month. And now people have been asking for this giant dark gray logo shirt that I wear around sometimes. I've been wearing this for a while. It is a giant dark gray logo. This is the one time this month that you can get this. I quite enjoy this dark gray large logo. Also have it on the back of a hoodie, and then we have it here on the tri-blend shirts. The tri-blend shirts are a little bit softer, a little more of an athletic fit. So yeah, go ahead and grab it this month. Next month we've got a special Computex shirt that's a secret, but I think it looks amazing. And I've been working with someone who does pixel art to help us come up with the cityscape. So just stay tuned for that. That'll be next month-ish. And the other thing that's new in the store is Your OS Sucks. Right there it is. I want some pictures of people wearing Your OS Sucks shirts inside like Microsoft or maybe the Apple headquarters, or just go into an Apple store and take a picture of this, and I'll put it on the website with all the other pictures of the shirts. And I don't know, I thought this would be a funny shirt just to wear if you're a technician, because that's as soon as you get to work, it's no matter what distro you're using, no matter what OS you're using, Your OS Sucks is just the thing. So I thought it would be a good insider joke. I like the shirt. Makes me laugh. Anyway, so pick those up, and let's get back to the tech. All right, we've already talked about the Republicans opposing net neutrality. Next up is Benny. So Benny is saying that the N.S.A. is so overwhelmed with data that it's no longer effective, and he's basically talking about all their different data collection, mechanisms. Because, well, first off, let's just give a little bit of a history lesson on Benny. Benny created, or he came up with a plan that would look at all of the different things and analyze what was important to collect, and only collect things that looked like they were important. It seemed to be a very intelligent way to go about it. It looked for keys and keywords, and then it captured just those things. And it didn't do so with, domestic to domestic stuff. It was basically looking for, international correspondences and that sort of thing. He did it normally.
You mean it was a program for the N.S.A. to gather intelligence on foreign surveillance while leaving domestic surveillance alone? No, say it can't be. Yeah. And the other thing is, Benny, there were 3 whistleblowers before Snowden that you guys probably have never heard of, and Benny was one of them. And they raided his house and tried to retroactively classify materials that had been declassified so they could charge him with improperly having classified material. That's how messed up the people are. Because he was like, I'm not going to reveal anything I'm not allowed to reveal, but my God, there's some stuff going on here and people need to look at it. So whenever you hear somebody saying Snowden should have blown the whistle through proper channels, there are at least 3 people that did, and then they were intimidated by the police force. So
intimidated is a nice way to put it. They were basically harassed by the police force. Anyway, the bottom line is that his plan it did not cost that much money, and it didn't require the use of a gazillion contractors. And I think that rubs some people the wrong way, because they have all their contractor buddies, and all their cronies and all that stuff, and they have to make sure that they get a piece of money. So they were like, well, your plan doesn't give my friends enough money, and I'm not going to get a kickback. So let's just tear them up. So that's basically what happened. Anyway, now their version of things is exactly it's making things harder for intelligence, because now there's so much data. It's a needle in a haystack scenario. So they have all the data on the Boston bombings. They had all the data on some other terrorist plots and attacks. They had all this data. The problem is it's just swimming around in such a large pile of data that they can't find it. They can't figure it out. They can't put it together. It's chaos. And they say it's literally analysts trying to sit there and sift through needle in a haystack style. Now they can always go back after something has happened and find all the stuff retroactively and be like, oh, look, we have it all. We could have stopped that crap.
So now we can write a program to search for that kind of data. At Penguicon, there was a talk by Bruce Schneier. He's got a new book called Data and Goliath. And part of the stuff in that book is talking about how they basically are just vacuuming up everything. And though there doesn't exist tools right now to really do effective data mining, there will in the future. And so when you think, oh, well, they're vacuuming up my data, but it's this huge unintelligible pile of crap, and so it doesn't matter, eventually that won't be true, and your data will have been there. And so, you don't really want that. He also talks about how, did you know, like your VCR, like you remember Blockbuster and places where you would go and rent movies? Your rental records from places like that are protected by law. Those records have more protections than your telephone metadata and your telephone records and that kind of thing, which is interesting. And the reason for that is because some journalist got a hold of the rental records of some politicians, and the politicians apparently had been renting like Debbie Does Dallas or whatever VHS things existed like that way back in the day. And then all of a sudden we have a law that's like, oh, rental records, that's private. That's up there with medical records. We've got HIPAA, and then just right below HIPAA, we've got rental records. So what you're telling me needs to happen is Verizon and all these other companies that are playing ball with this, some politicians' telephone records need to be leaked. But it's kind of sad because there's a lot of politicians that are like, I've never used email and I'm proud of it. And I can't help but think it's probably the same thing with cell phones and stuff. It's like the reason they're not worried about the bulk collection of their data is because they're still using carrier pigeon and quill and ink. And so, of course, it doesn't bother them.
Send a bird. Can we send a bird to South Carolina? Yes. Send
a raven.
Send a raven to South Carolina. They need to know about what's happened in D.C. That's exactly the way. That makes so much sense. That's scary. Well, the N.S.A. Bulk collection of data has just been ruled illegal, and this is in a 97-page ruling. 3 judges were on the panel, and this is the United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit. And they looked at everything and they were like, no, because they were basically a provision in their Patriot Act, and they were basing a lot of their data collection on these little provisions, and then finally they said, no, this is illegal. And a lot of the decisions for the bulk collection of our domestic correspondences and phone records, a lot of those decisions were made in secret rulings in secret courts. And so one of the things that the judges said, they're like, all right, listen, if all these idiots want to get together in Congress and they want to make this real, they can do so. And they can do so publicly so that we all know about it. It doesn't have to be a secret room thing. And he's like, by all means, if they want to go vote for it, let them do it. But it is illegal now. So that's kind of an interesting turn of events. And of course, Mitch McConnell from Kentucky, why is he even in charge? He's going to have to do some backpedaling. But yeah.
This is crazy. The interesting thing from this 97-page ruling is the judge seems to be calling Snowden a whistleblower, which throws all kinds of wrenches at all levels of government. I mean, even Obama was jumping on the, I don't think Snowden was a whistleblower at all. And it's like, well, clearly there are other members of government that would disagree with you. So whether or not he is a whistleblower, it's interesting that there's not really this toe the line thing. So I expect that the judge that wrote this ruling will probably be shipped off to Gitmo any day now.
I love this little plugin I have here called Open Secret. It's from Open Secrets. You hover over somebody's name, and it brings up all the people who are giving them money. And Mitch McConnell is making a ton of money. God. He is making, I guess that's what you get when you're the majority leader. He's making a ton of money. One of the things it does... Go ahead.
It's not really a subject for the tech, but I think Princeton just published a paper today that is the most awesome. It's like the most awesome scientific paper ever. The premise of it, and it is emphatically demonstrating that politicians absolutely do not care anything about what their constituents say, because the entire system is designed to give them money and make them better and separate them from their constituency. And the paper talks about the mechanisms by which that happens, and the system can only pull the politicians farther and farther away from their constituency because they accumulate power and special interests and blah blah blah. And so it's a really interesting and fascinating paper. It's like as long as the politicians are taking money from people, they can't possibly ever represent their constituency.
Interesting. I need to go read that now. One thing about this whole ruling that does trouble me is that, while the N.S.A. is not allowed to collect all this data, all the different companies are still going to be collecting the data. Like if AT&T or Verizon, whoever you're using, they're still going to collect and keep the data for 18 months. So the N.S.A. will still be able to get their hands on it because, of course, they tap into that kind of stuff. And let's face it, when things are illegal, they don't even care. They just do it anyway. They have a hoarding complex. So I don't think this is going to stop them. It might slow them down a little bit. It might make it easier for them to find stuff because there'll be less data on their own servers, but they'll be able to get access to it from other people's servers or with a simple phone call, not even a subpoena these days. They just need to push a couple buttons and it's like, oh, we've got all the Verizon records. So it's not like it's going to be inaccessible to them, and that's still a problem in my opinion. But
yeah, so we have a judge saying it's illegal. What changed? Nothing. Like, okay, let's if you go a step farther and you just assume it's like, the president tomorrow said, oh no, this is bad, we should stop this. The mechanism that is doing this is so deep and so ingrained that they can't even just turn it off. Like, turning it off would actually cripple probably legitimate intelligence operations. It cannot be turned off because it is so ingrained into the infrastructure of everything. It is impossible to do anything about it. I mean, they could declare that, tomorrow we're not going to be a part of the UN anymore, because there's nothing we could do. I mean, everybody would just be sitting around staring at each other like, we can't. There's nothing we can do. It's it's got a mind of its own. It's basically on doing its thing, and it is what it is. We can promise not to look at it, I guess, because I mean, the AT&T room 687. This has been happening since time. If you really want to melt your brain about these kinds of things, like, this is actually really small. Like, oh, we're doing stuff with data and the internet and blah blah blah. If you want to know how deep the rabbit hole goes, you just Google MK Ultra and you look at that, and then you come back and then you let me know how that works out for you.
All right, let's talk about hardware. I think it's about time to have some fun, talk about hardware. Then we're gonna talk about some science and gaming. So no more boring stuff, guys. Stuff's boring but necessary.
Let's get into that.
Let's get into the good stuff here. I get so sick of these idiot politicians, but somebody has to keep them in check. So just deal with it, all right? You guys, now that you know, it's time to have some fun. It's like we just ate our vegetables. Now it's time to have dessert. All right, Intel, the Skylake. Skylake is a thing now. I guess this has been leaked. Let's just talk about some of the differences in their upcoming architecture. It looks like they're moving the Fiver, which is the fully integrated voltage controller or regulator. That's the FIVIC, the fully integrated voltage regulator. They're moving it off of the chip, and it's because of the heat. Really, that's got to be what it is. It generates more heat, and it especially can compromise the performance and will make the chip fail when you start getting into the really high frequencies. So it's going to make it more difficult for you to overclock. And we did have some decent overclocking, but not really. I don't know. The Haswell E was much better than regular Haswell for overclocking. So it's nice to see Skylake moving in a direction that I think will be really good for the enthusiasts. You're going to have to wait for the K parts to come out. The first ones that are going to come out are not going to be K parts, but just wait a little while. And they've made some improvements to the GPU part of it. And the other thing that's pretty interesting here is that I've forgotten I've forgotten everything. What else is interesting? Nothing else is interesting. It's not really going to be an extreme jump up as far as performance go. I don't think it'll probably be more efficient. We'll have a little bit more overhead, but I'm not expecting a huge jump in speed here. Just it's just the way Intel is going. It's the only thing that could really give it a massive boost is if they decided to up the frequencies, and they might be able to do so after they remove the Fiver. So I don't know. You got any interesting thoughts on this?
I really, in the roadmap doesn't really look anything all that crazy. I mean, honestly, it looks fine. Intel is moving toward power, power efficiency. They're not really improving instructions per clock dramatically or anything like that. It's just incremental improvements. I do think that Intel is keeping an ace up their sleeve, and that is they're not going super insane with the clock speed. So if you have a super cherry, like as far as desktop parts go, this is less true of laptop parts. If you're talking about desktop parts, if you get a super cherry picked desktop part, you can hit 5 gigahertz pretty easily, probably beyond 5 gigahertz, without really a lot of headache. A lot of the peripherals are the things that depend on those high clock speeds versus the actual part. And so I think if Intel is forced to, they could ramp up the clock speed dramatically on these. And I think that's where we would see the gains. I don't necessarily think they're going to put a lot of effort into an overclocking part unless AMD does something dramatic. But I think Intel is really leaving itself a ton of headroom on the clock speed on these, because if the next generation of hardware they're working on, I think, is kind of a dud or diddles out, they'll be able to basically refresh this generation with a much faster clock speed and basically be done. And the Fiver situation, I don't really know what to make of that, because the old parts, when they would go from basically asleep to fully awake, they would need a lot of power really quickly. And moving the Fiver off the CPU is dramatically going to increase the latency for that. And so does that mean that the CPU stays asleep longer? Will that actually have a sort of a negative effect on that? I mean, is the reason that they moved it strictly because of heat? Because I would believe that. That seems legit. I think it's more about the heat that comes from the GPU component of the CPU, though, rather than the computational part. And so those things are sort of a series of interesting variables, and it's fun to think about and speculate how exactly all those things fit together. Because from my perspective, it seems like more R&D and more development is actually going into the GPU part of these CPUs than the actual CPU part.
You know, speaking of AMD doing something significant, let's take a look at the new Zen roadmap that we have here. So Bulldozer is gone.
It's leaked and may not be legit.
Do you think it's leaked? I don't know, man. There's been murmuring around, and we even had some murmuring over beer from people who shouldn't have been telling me things that said, "Listen, AMD has a roadmap now for x86 stuff," and I think some of this might actually be a thing. I don't know. Is this just Photoshop, some 4chan trickery? Anyway,
it might be legit. I don't know. But the big thing here, 40% increase in instructions per clock. That's huge.
So that's huge. Also, it's completely newly designed architecture. It's totally different than the Bulldozer, and they're going sort of the Intel route because they're going to allow essentially hyperthreading. They're allowing more than one instruction, per core per clock. So that'll be nice. And or just multiple threads per core is the main thing there. I'm not sure if it's per clock, but yeah, it's multiple threads per core. And the interesting thing here that they said is that it doesn't have to be limited to 2 threads per core. We can do more, but on the first generation of parts, we're going to limit it to 2 threads per core. Could be interesting. And they're also they reference a lot like the Intel big core. They keep saying like the big core style of computing. So I think they've taken a page from Intel as far as all that goes. And they've added a few things of their own. The newer mechanism for cache that's supposed to be far superior to their last CPU. Their last CPU, let's face it, it was a workstation part that did a pretty good job at those sort of tasks, and it was really inexpensive. And then the guys at AMD who were into marketing were like, this is a cool part, let's turn it into the first. They wanted to have the first desktop 8-core parts, and then there was that whole mess. It was really designed for servers. It was not really designed for desktops. I thought it was a hell of a part for the money, and I still recommend them for people who are building budget gaming rigs. But if they can really come out and compete with Intel, then we'll have something to talk about. They're a high bandwidth memory and all that sort of. This is on the desktop, the graphics cards. That's coming up next. But yeah, could be interesting. I just want Intel to have some competition, so that Intel will have to ramp up and pull that ace out of their sleeve that they've been holding on to. I know they've got some stuff they're just not using because they don't have to. It's like, well, AMD is not catching up, so let's just chill,
Yeah, definitely that's the case. It also is this rumor thing has that AMD is going to release a new desktop CPU this quarter as well.
Interesting. More AMD rumors, shall we? Take a look at the 390X, the rumored 390X. Looks to be about the size of a 970. Have a lot more performance. It's got a water cooling block there. And let's scroll on down. We've talked about this before, but here is just these are supposed to be leaked specs, but I don't know. Yeah, I just don't know. Stream processors.
So many rumors and innuendo.
The stream, if they really have over 4,000 stream processors, that's pretty damned impressive. But we'll have to wait and see. It'll be out soon. I think pretty soon, guys. The 390 is I can't say anymore. Soon though, you guys will know soon, and then I'll be able to say things.
I think these graphs might be slightly misleading because, like the 4K, like the 390X, the King of the Hill one. So if you look at that one, you're looking at Battlefield 4, Far Cry, Tomb Raider, and Alien, and those are all scaled at 1. And then the 390X is 1.6, and it's like, wait a minute, the distance from 0 to 1 is way different than the scale from 1 to 1.8. What's going on there? What's happening? So what they're saying is, it's 50% faster in Far Cry, 60% faster in Battlefield 4, 50% faster in Tomb Raider, and 63%, 65% faster in Alien Isolation. So I already don't have the warm and fuzzies if AMD is manipulating the graphs this badly.
Well, they always do this crap, and you have to ignore all the graphs from the companies. They're just nonsense. The only thing that matters to me are the specs here, and then there may be some secret sauce in there as well. But if it actually hits something close to these specs, we could see one hell of a card. We'll just have to wait and see, and it'll be soon. We will see you soon, everyone. All right, we've already talked about that. Next thing on the list, we've already talked about Broadwell and Skylake and all that. Science stuff. Oh, wow. Another report comes out, and that's bad grammar. Another report came out, and it says, hey, solar is affordable. Oh, my God. Another report that says that it's going to be outpacing fossil fuels very soon. So, yeah, it's just report after report. Every week there's a new report. This one's from the MIT Energy Initiative. And,
Elon Musk's Powerwall, if you guys missed the announcement on that, Elon Musk is using their spare battery production capacity to sell high-capacity home power cells. Though it's like $3,500, and it's enough to run your house for a couple of days, basically on battery backup. You can they're modular, so you can get more than one. If you got a big house, you can get 2 Powerwalls or whatever. Those are sold out through 2016 already. Like, they had the announcement at the press release or whatever last week at the shareholders conference, and immediately through 2016, all of those are sold out.
Gone.
This is going to be really interesting in California, because in California, solar could very easily be a thing. The physical infrastructure for the electricity is very crappy and very terrible, and there is a strong incentive for a ton of people in California to go solar, but just because you go solar doesn't mean that you can do without the grid. And most of the cost of electricity in California really comes from maintaining the grid. And so it's really going to be an interesting situation when you've got people that are basically getting power for free, but they really still do need to participate in the grid. And so this is making utility companies nervous, because they're like, well, if we can't sell electricity anymore, we still need to pay for the grid. And if half the people leave the grid, then the grid is going to be unaffordably expensive for the other half. And so that's a recipe for sort of post-apocalyptic insanity. But at the same time, you really don't want to shun solar, because things like this solar technology and technologies like Elon Musk's, super battery wall, whatever, could really solve a lot of problems in California as far as their energy crisis goes. So it's a rough situation.
Well, they're not going to solve any problems for the big energy companies.
No.
Unless they jump
burn
on
some more oil. It's like,
all right. How about this? Spraying spiders with water that has, it's basically water that's infused. If you're in a restaurant, they would say water infused with carbon nanotubes and graphene is applied to the spider. So they basically spray the spiders with this stuff, and all of a sudden their silk has the properties of graphene and carbon nanotubes, and it's a gazillion times stronger. It's like the strongest thing on the planet. At first they were wondering if just the carbon nanotubes and stuff were coating the outside of the silk, but that can't be, because the additional strength would be, it basically has to be inside the silk. So it seems like so basic. They just squirt them with water with this stuff in it, and then they produce fancy graphene carbon nanotube silk. They still can't harvest it, but it's so weird. Is this bad journalism?
An entire generation of scientists missed out on spraying various animals with asbestos to see what would happen.
Would have been the asbestos.
We could have had the flame retardant squirrel.
Unless it messed with his brain, then we'd have the retarded flame retardant squirrel, which would have been worth it. Yeah. There's some more asbestos jokes in here somewhere, but I'm not going to do them. I'm just not going to do them. But how I can't. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. How did they come up with this? Like, what? Who? It's like Bob. What are we going to do? I know. Let's kill it with carbon nanotubes. And it's like,
let's just spray it. Yeah. The University of Trento in Italy. They haven't had a lot of breakthroughs over there, and finally one day they're like, I don't know, just hose the damn things down and let's see what happens. Oh God, oh wow, this is the strongest substance known to man. It's stronger than anything. And yeah, now they just got to figure out how to harvest it. So figure that out now. They've been trying to harvest silk from spiders for a long time, and it just doesn't work out. Figure it out.
It's whenever you're messing with genetically modified spiders, or in this case spiders sprayed with a mutagenic compound. I guess it's, with great power comes great responsibility, but it's not really that. It's the technology that brings us Spider-Man. It's the same technology that brings us the Green Goblin.
I'm all for it. I mean, I want to watch. Keep people on their toes. That'll be good. Yeah, artificial wombs. We're just talking about all kinds of things today. Yeah, so apparently we may have artificial wombs by 2074. Right now, they've already been able to do some experiments where they had, I think it was a goat fetuses, and they were able to keep them alive for a period of time. And of course, if you have a baby early, I think it's like way early, you can still give birth, and they can still keep the baby alive with fancy, expensive equipment. But they're saying that by 2074, more than 70% of human births could be in these artificial wombs, basically incubators for humans. And the implications of all that are just, I mean, we'll already have hit the singularity by then, right? So maybe we could use this to grow body parts for robots, and or give robots an identity, or it's strange because there's now, like, if it comes from a person, there's more of a moral argument. But I feel like once we have babies grown in tubes, there'll be less of a moral argument, and it could be the collapse of all society. I don't know, but that's just one of the one side of the argument. I mean, we could sit around and have beers and talk about this kind of stuff for a while because there's so many different angles to it. But yeah, just the general implications of something like that. Is it a good idea to go there? Who knows?
The first use of this is going to be very good. It's going to be basically an emergency incubator for premature underweight births. This is going to be very good because in America and other parts of the developed world, there's sort of a drug problem. And I really like the way that Isaac Asimov described that. He described it as a disease of boredom. And those kinds of things lead to underweight births and premature births and that kind of thing. That's going to be really good. That's going to be the first use of this technology. The next use of this technology, and this might tie for the first use, but I think that one of the other things that will come from this technology is genetic manipulation. And so when we're engineering the Syndicate, chances are the Syndicate is going to be engineered with something like this, because a live birth, that would just be we don't want to go there. Somebody could record that stuff with their cell phone and put it on YouTube, and then the Syndicate project is over, let me tell you.
Yeah, there's like 100,000 people outside screaming, and they have no idea what they're screaming about, but they just didn't like what they saw on YouTube. It was grisly.
I would eat the crap out of a Syndicate. Why do we not have people on this? I mean, we need that. Because otherwise, meat's just going to be ludicrously expensive, and I've got to have my Syndicate. It's going to be delicious. I would also settle for like a Cinta yak or Cinta bison or something. But
I'll pay more
this
than
technology
a
will
cent.
be used for that kind of thing. Then the next thing this will be used for is like, two homosexual people will want to genetically engineer their child. But that'll be the thing that everybody's freaking out about. But what it will really be is not that, because that's not really even a thing. That's not really here nor there. What it really will be wealthy people genetically engineering their children, and then that's when we as a species start to be in real trouble. I don't know how that's going to go, because all the sci-fi books I've ever read say that ends very badly.
We'll just have to hope that the robots have the rest of us in our the rest of us in mind. I don't know if they will or not. At that point, the robots are probably like, screw it all, let's just do the Etch-a-Sketch thing and be done with it, and that'll be over.
The only thing I can taste right now is delicious prime rib from my Syndicate.
I've got some questions for everybody out there in the audience, and I'd like to know in the comments here, but mostly on the website. So there's an Asteroid-mining company working in Redmond, and they're going to be launching a very small, about the size of a loaf of bread, probe. And the idea is it's going to go out there and look for potential mining spots, and then they'll launch a larger probe later in the year. But they're right here, really close by. I wonder if you guys would be interested in seeing some videos of the people behind this, why they're doing it. And, because now that we're here in this part of the world, there's all kinds of stuff like this. We can go over and talk to them, and that's to me, that's more interesting than doing a gazillion product videos, doing a couple of these videos. It'll keep me more entertained, I suppose, meeting these people. But I want to know if that's something you guys would be interested in seeing, finding out what's going on there, some of the technology behind it, the people behind it, and the reasons behind it. So That's pretty interesting. The other thing I wanted to ask you guys is this. Do you guys want us to go check this out? It's over in Utah. It's a place called The Void that they're developing. And the idea is that you put on VR headsets and, basically VR clothing. And then they build real environments, but over top of the real environments, they basically create a video game world that you can explore. So you guys are seeing this stuff on the screen right now, the way it works. It looks kind of interesting, and they even have steam vents that will hit you with some warm air and fans that will blow in your hair. And you're moving through real space. It looks like you're moving through a video game world or that hasn't been textured, you know what I mean? Just like gray walls and stuff. And your VR headset will apply the textures and everything. So it'll be the first of its kind, a virtual theme park in Utah, just south of Salt Lake City. I'm not sure when they're going to be opening, but if you guys are curious about that, we can maybe head over there as well. It's a 10-hour drive, but it might be worth it if it looks cool. I don't know. What do you think? You want to go check out The Void? Be in a video game?
I think it would be a lot of fun.
It's really
I think it probably would be a lot of fun. We totally should do that.
As long as
we totally should go bother them.
Yeah, as long as it's gripping. I mean, the thing I'm worried about is going into it and having it be about as much fun as one of the Oculus Rift demo games. That would be like, oh, we came all the way here and it's really neat to walk around in these worlds, but my God, these games are awful. So I hope they do a good job with the games and just make it a generally interesting experience. I don't know, could be something to look forward to. All right, let's talk about some PC gaming here. I saw some people in the comments saying that PC gaming was for people with beards and no lives. Well, you know what? Can your games mod like our games? And I don't think so. Well, first off, let's talk about Rockstar. They said that they're not going to be banning people who are using single-player mods. We do have some people saying that they're getting banned for using single-player mods. So
that's on GTA 5.
Yeah, GTA 5. What did I say? Rockstar? Yeah. So Rockstar needs to come out and figure out what's going on there. Are people really getting banned for single-player mods? And if so, what's up with that? Also, it is nice to see that they are out in support of single-player mods, but you will get banned for using mods in multiplayer. Now, Rockstar, where the hell is a true FOV slider? This is a PC, not a console. We can handle a little bit more on the edges, and it's really difficult to play the game looking through, it feels like you're looking through a tube the entire time you're playing, and I'm not going to play it until you guys give us an official FOV slider. There's a mod for single player that will allow you to have the FOV, whatever you want.
Well, it's actually a DLL injector.
Yeah.
And because of the way that it injects the stuff on the DLL, it doesn't really make a distinction between online and offline play. And so there were some people that had that mod that got banned because the DLL injector thing was technically still running in the background when they played online. I think those are if anybody's still having that problem, let us know and we'll try to help get it sorted out. But with the power of Twitter or whatever. But by and large, if you were innocently doing that, you will have been unbanned. But any other online mods, no. So I guess it's good. I think Rockstar really, they could have handled this way better. Let's be clear about that.
Guys, just give us an FOV slider. Because now that there's some mods out there, I do kind of want to play it. I didn't really want to play it at first because I was like, the subject matter doesn't really do much for me. I like the ability to run around and just do stupid stuff. And now that there's some mods that make it more ridiculous, like I can be a monkey and run around and shoot cars out of my car cannon, great, I want to play it now. Before, I don't know, you beat up people, do drug deals, and all that kind of nonsense. I don't care. But now I do. Now I do care because I can be a monkey. Well, why is that the thing? That's the thing that matters to me the most in the world. Should we take a couple questions from the YouTube guys since we've been gone for a while?
We could take a couple questions from the YouTube chat, but the YouTube chat is just swill and insanity, so I don't even know if we can pretend we got some good questions from that, but that's about it.
Chat is toxic. Yeah. No, it's not. Let's not even do it. That's going to be the end of this, guys. We've got our moving truck coming in a few days, and then we'll have the office back in order and start ramping up production for real. But thanks for bearing with us through this big transition. And now that we're out here in the Seattle area, we're going to have to move again, but it will be locally, not somewhere else. This is only place we have now is only 7-8 months or whatever. I don't know, but at least we're
and don't forget to check out our other channels. Because I got so many tweets that were like, "Oh my God, where's all this stuff?" And it's like, guys, I've been posting stuff to the hardware channel, and I've got some stuff that's ready to post for the Linux channel. What do you want from me?
I'm bringing up some other things to look at here. Oh no, it didn't work. I don't even know how that works. But yeah, we have
Syndicate hardware
game deals,
which is like a thing.
There we go, game deals. We have that. There we go. So go. Just go to techsyndicate.com/game deals. Check out all our game deals. We keep these up to date, and we'll be adding some new ones in there from Pistol's Game Fan Shop that's doing quite well right now. So you guys can check that out. We'll put links for all this stuff. So yeah, for real, please subscribe to all the channels. If you guys want the hardware stuff, it's out there. And the easiest way to get there is, let me just show you the sidebar real quick. Last thing I'm going to show you guys, and then we're done. Open up a new window. Secret things happening. How do I get to YouTube? There it is. I don't even know. There we go. When you guys are on our main YouTube channel, I'm opening up right now. When you guys are on the main YouTube channel, God, my internet's slow here. So much faster in Vermont. It's crazy how much faster it was in Vermont. Yeah, it's sad. When you guys are on the channel, like our main page for the Tech Syndicate channel on YouTube, over here on the left we have all the other channels: hardware, enterprise, Linux, even a shenanigans thing there for no reason, because once in a while I'm going to record something that's just so asinine that I want to put it online. I'll put it there, but it's not serious at all. These are the serious ones, hardware especially. So get over there and subscribe to it all. All these hardware videos.
I got a subscribe button.
You do? On Twitch? Yeah. And Pistol just got a subscribe button on Twitch, so go subscribe to her as well. Subscribe to everything. Okay, goodbye. Let's turn this off, shall we? Do you have anything to say in closing?
No, the next Tech Linux video is probably going to be the Surface Pro 3, recompiling the kernel for the Surface Pro 3, installing Ubuntu 15.04. I went through hell to get Mir and everything else working on 15.04. For those of you not in the know, Ubuntu's doing this unified thing where it's like convergence. You know, you have a tablet, PC, whatever. The operating system goes into tablet mode when you're using like a tablet, and goes into desktop mode when you're using like a computer, which is how Microsoft should have done Windows 8 to begin with. It is how Windows 10 is going to be, but Canonical is going to beat Microsoft to the punch on this. 15.04 was supposed to be that. It's not that. Ubuntu 15.04 is Unity 7.3 out of the box, but you can install Unity 8, which is based on Mir, which has the touch interface. It's not really done yet, but there's a couple cool videos on YouTube. There's some cool videos on our forum. You should go check it out. And so the thing I've been working on, and I was working on it at PinguaCon with some really smart people, is that on the Surface Pro 3. And I've got all that working on the Surface Pro 3, recompiled the kernel. Should be a pretty good video for Tech Linux. I may break it up into a couple of pieces because recompiling the kernel was kind of fun. It wasn't really a big deal, but it did take 20 gigabytes of disk space, so stay tuned.
And I'll have some Linux log videos coming up. Mine are going to be more, I guess, I don't want to say the word basic, but yeah, probably more basic. I've installed like a gazillion different music players, so if you guys need help picking a music player, I'm going to go through a bunch of those for you pretty soon. But right now I'm just getting my computer all back in working order. So anyway, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching the tech. Thanks for wasting an hour of your life. No, hopefully you've enjoyed your time. If not, well, then go watch something terrible. All right, see you later.
Go check out that 4K 39-inch monitor and then go buy it because it's amazing.
Do that, yeah. See you guys.